This is NBR Today. As Fletcher Building shareholders listened to presentations at their annual meeting, the value of their company sank more than 7%, wiping $350 million from its market capitalisation. The culprit was a profit warning delivered before the meeting, indicating earnings before interest and tax would be between $630 and $680 million for the 2019 year. Chief Executive Ross Taylor said the previous guidance placed the company at the top of that range, but they had eased back slightly given the present trading conditions in Australia. Mr. Taylor said the company's strategy would now be focusing on stabilising the business.
Firstly, in New Zealand, we're seeing residential consents run at around 30,000 consents per annum, which is slightly down on previous years, but much as we expected it to look like. Activity levels remain robust, especially here in Auckland, but we think this is now plateauing and there are signs that the Auckland market will pull back slightly. Looking forward, with continuing supply-demand imbalances, a solid New Zealand economy and immigrations not being overly curtailed, we continue to feel the present levels of activity are sustainable, at least for the medium term.
The new chief executive of A2 Milk says she's unconcerned by a noisy US dairy lobby which continues to criticise its marketing claims. The milk company's US growth was a key issue ahead of today's AGM, where executives also addressed trade with China, director pay, and CEO Jane Hrdlicka's move to sell down shares. Before the meeting, the company indicated revenue for the first 4 months of the financial year is up 40%, while earnings for the year before interest, tax, depreciation and amortisation up $124.2 million. That's a rise of 58.5%. A US dairy lobbyist, the National Milk Producers Federation, complained to the Federal Trade Commission last week. US National Milk Producers Federation Senior Vice President Clay Detlefson says A2's marketing claims are weak at best and its test studies were too short to prove its claims.
We've gone through all the appropriate steps from a regulatory standpoint. Consumers love our product, retailers love our product, and the traditional dairy producers are nervous. And so they're going to fight dirty, and all they're doing is drawing attention to the fact that there is a great proposition in market that makes a difference for people and that consumers are excited about it.
Corporate travel management company Serko's first half profit has slowed, although revenue growth continued at pace. The company's net profit after tax in the 6 months to September 30 was $920,000. Now that's down 16% from the $1.09 million the year before. Profit was hit by the costs of its dual ASX listing in August, plus hedging movements in foreign currency. The company has $19 million cash on hand after completing a placement in August. So, is it looking for acquisitions? NBR's Canada Stuart Menti spoke to Circo Chief Executive Darren Grafton.
Yeah, I mean, we do keep pretty good and strong cash management, as you'd expect in this sort of industry. But we will look at acquisitions that are aligned to our strategy. So we've got a clear vision of where we want to be in 4 to 5 years, and we know that certain acquisitions will fast track us through some of those processes, as well as establishing some parts of enabling us to scale offer 24/7 support.
New research on whistleblowing in Australia and New Zealand finds 42% of people who report unethical behaviour were treated badly by their organisations. Now, as bad as that figure is, it's an improvement on earlier surveys. But the report also finds 81.6% of those surveyed face wider repercussions for speaking up. In Australia, the federal government is preparing to make whistleblowing amendments to the Corporations Act, and here the government is also reviewing its whistleblowing law. So, is Australia ahead of us? I spoke to Victoria University Associate Professor Michael McCauley.
I would hesitate to say that makes them ahead. I'd just say that that's kind of different. I think there's potentially cultural differences between New Zealand and Australia that would make formal processes more kind of important in one than the other. I don't know, we need to investigate that further. But I mean, look, the brutal fact is, I don't want to be kind of controversial, I hope this isn't, but there are more corruption problems in Australia and there are more integrity issues in Australia. So it's kind of almost a default setting that there'll be a higher degree of compliance regimes there because there's a more obvious problem to address. I don't think that problem is quite so obvious in New Zealand. I don't think it's that prevalent in New Zealand, to be honest.
Electricity company Trustpower will offer wireless broadband and mobile services to its customers after signing up with Spark. General Manager Craig Neutrowski says Trustpower has been seeking access to mobile services for some time and has secured a wholesale supply arrangement with number one broadband player Spark. The company is one of several energy companies that have expanded into telecommunications in recent years. Earlier this month, Trustpower posted a $64.9 million half-year profit, 21% lower than the $79.3 million September 2017 half-year profit. So to tomorrow. Columnist Rodney Hyde poses the question, is Housing Minister Phil Twyford stupid and naive or clever and calculating? More on that and other stories, head to our website. Have a great evening.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.